Welcome to SmartAsset's Advisor Success Series. I am Michael Carvin. I am the CEO and founder of SmartAsset. Very pleased to be joined today by Lee Fortenberry.
Michael, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks so much for joining us. We can jump right in. I'd love to hear about how you got started in wealth management and how you got to where you are today.
Michael, I celebrating about 34 years in the industry now, and it's been kind of a wild ride in some respects because when I started with a stodgy old company called Northwestern Mutual back in late 1990. Was introduced to them by a respected friend and mentor from my military days who had been with Northwestern for about 2 years up until that point. Um, Never saw him as a sales guy, saw him as a very respected, honorable person. So that made me a little more attracted to the industry. I had not had good results working with the industry in general because it seemed like everybody was telling me something different. And coming from probably a math based background with hard science degrees from college, I expected two plus two to equal four. And so, but he proved to me that you could be different in the industry. And that was really what kind of helped facilitate my entrance into the industry. And once got started, of course, like a lot of people, I started with a list of names and was trying to call people so I could get some traction. A lot of cold calling back in 1990, 91, and people answered their phone back then. So at least some of them did answer, but I found out quickly that back then anyway, referred leads was going to be my best source of action. I was not from where I was working at the time. I grew up in the deep South, and I was working in Columbia and Central Maryland. And so, but got a little bit of traction, built some stuff, and wound up the equivalent of a player coach, as you would, by running a satellite office for Northwestern in Salisbury, Maryland. And my wife and I, over the next couple of years, worked our way back to Pennsylvania because ultimately she wanted to live in Gettysburg. And I was still working, recruiting, developing some people, but also too was starting to fiddle around with, hey, what do I do with these skills that I've working in the personal marketplace? And so my brain was kind of committed to that old school approach of getting referred leads. The only problem was I didn't have a lot of networks sitting in Gettysburg and in kind of what was now a retirement community, even though it's not officially a retirement community, called the Links of Gettysburg. And so our firm leadership left, and in February of 2022. And so we were in transition there, and I'm really just scratching my head going, okay, and now what? And interestingly enough, I got a phone call and I almost didn't call him back to show you how committed to this old school thought was that really only referred leads, that there was no other marketing that was really going to be helpful to me. But also, too, I didn't have a lot of referred leads because I wasn't in this place where I had been entrenched and built strong networks and so forth. While I've never been shy about investing in my business, I was about to commit to spend money that I really didn't have at the time. I said, we've got to give it at least 6 months because you can't predict results in the first 90 days. Got to give it at least 6 months. So we did that, and my experience has been really good. I mean, I feel like I have an active team working with me. I had to do some things a little differently as a result because now I wasn't dealing with people that just really knew me or they knew the person that had introduced us. So we had to do some things a little bit different as far as tweak my process a little bit. But one of the things that I can say is that I'm very excited about this after 15 months because this gave me a way to rebrand.
Thank you for your partnership, Lee. We understand the investment that goes into being successful on the platform. It's a significant financial investment. It's a significant time investment too. It takes a lot of time and work and effort to be successful, and you do need to kind of take a little bit of a leap of faith because it takes at 90 days you should at least have a sense, but your financial payoff isn't going to come until 6, 9, 12 months in, and just given the nature of the sales cycle. So we appreciate you betting on us, and I'm glad you've had a good experience working with your team. I wanted to ask you a question. You've got deep military experience. Does your time in the military at all shape the way that you serve your clients or build a relationship with your clients? Have you thought about that?
Well, I think, or I'd like to think anyway, that uh, they view me as being very dependable. They view me as being reliable as a result. I try to be uh, consistent. I think one of the challenges in this crazy world of financial services is the fact that it's really mostly about relationship management. I mean, I think I heard a statistic one time where 20% of the marketplace were true do-it-yourselfers or do-it-yourselfers, and the other 80% were almost equally split between delegating to someone like me what to do in their planning and advice, and then the others want to be educated. They don't want to just delegate, but they still want to use an advisor.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd imagine there are a lot of consumers that really value having an advisor that has a military background. Can you tell me a little bit more about your personal practice? What kind of clients are you looking to meet? How much AUM do you have? What can you share about your current business?
Although it's not restricted to this group, my market seems to have evolved to around the over 50 market, the which fits me very well. I'm 60 years old, so they see somebody who's like-minded with them. They're facing the same challenges that they're facing, and the interesting thing is that they are apprehensive about what's going to happen in retirement. They know a lot's going on in the world, and and as I've said to them on many occasions now, I says, "Hey, you've been busy climbing the mountain. We're about to go down the mountain, and the distribution phase. And statistics show that more people die coming down off of Mount Everest than they do trying to get to the top. And so we want to make sure you get down without changing your lifestyle, and how do we get down effectively? And so I think that's one of the key things. Also, while I'm doing a lot of wealth management now, I think my background from starting in the insurance industry has actually been pretty helpful because of the things that they have to be mindful of. The articles are overwhelming about what's going to happen, with medical cost and other healthcare cost in the 21st century for retirees. But a lot of my competition I see focused more on just strictly under assets under management. And we're obviously doing that with our clients, but having one eye on the protection front to make sure that nothing's going to blindside us as we're moving through the retirement phase is very, very important.
That's a great call out. And um, we see consumers coming to SmartAsset to find a financial advisor for all kinds of reasons. We've got lottery winners, celebrities, people that have just gone through a divorce, people that have just had an inheritance, people that have just sold a small, sometimes large business. But the number one reason that people come to us is that they're looking for help as they navigate retirement, and the anxiety that comes with how you're going to manage healthcare expenses, other expenses, and that deaccumulation phase. So that lines up. Your skill set lines up very neatly with what we see as the peak of the bell curve of why consumers are coming to us. I'm curious, have you tried other marketing strategies other than Smart Asset?
I wouldn't say I've tried any digital strategies in the 21st century. Obviously, we've um, you know experimented in the past with leads. My junior partner went a different direction than Smart Asset with some sort of LinkedIn program. It was much it was much lower in his investment requirement, but I will tell you that his success rate has not been what mine has been with Smart Asset. So cost is only relevant in the absence of value, and sometimes we like to say you get what you pay for. But I think in the vetting and what we get,
Some people have the assumption that to be really effective on our platform, you have to be extraordinary at sales, and you call and you really you have a very forceful sale. And obviously, being good at sales is very helpful. But some of the most successful people on our platform are great listeners. They ask the right questions and they let the consumer talk about what their pain points are, um, what their concerns are, what their financial needs are, and they really listen. They spend the first 15 minutes really just listening, so then they can form the best response and adapt their value proposition and their pitch to what the consumer really needs.
through July 31, I had 332 leads through the when I started in March of 2023. 31 of those have been invalidated. So that's the 9.64. 198 have told me no. And when I say told me no, I haven't talked to all of them. Some of them put stop on my text message, or they did that and unsubscribe. Because what the nice thing about having the spreadsheet is, and also attach it to my email marketing thing with Guardian and Park Avenue, where they send out pre-approved articles and so forth. So they'll mark unsubscribed or will bounced and or something like that. My first commander in the Army, he did not come into this industry, but he said it's very hard to look another human being in the eye and just strictly say no or something worse. Most people can't do it, and so that was my experience. So I've got 198 no's that came off of that, which means everybody else is still actively being contacted, which means I still have a couple of people, actually just one now from March of last year. And so I've got 11 what I consider to be clients where they have worked with me, signed contracts to pay me a fee or whatever. I currently have about 8 cases still open. And interestingly enough, going back to that contacting, one of those clients was in April 8th of last year, literally reached out to me in March of this year, finally, after all those contacts, not a response of any kind. And we literally took possession of just under 500,000 of assets.
People are always shocked when I tell them this, but some of our larger partners get more than half of their clients after the 6 month mark. So after more than 6 months after we introduce them to the consumer. And so what happens a lot is there's something happens to the consumer that makes them think they want to speak to a financial advisor right now. And they'll speak to a financial advisor right now, but something will happen down the road. It could be 6 months, it could be a year later when they say, okay, look, I spoke to an advisor, but now I really need to work with a financial advisor. And if you can be top of mind when that happens through just staying in front of those consumers, you can really increase your conversion rates, your overall conversion rates. 11 clients, 8 opportunities in your pipeline. It sounds like you'll end up with somewhere between 15 and 20 clients. So doing the math in my head, I think that's a 4 or 5% close rate. Does that close about 1 in 20? Does that feel about right?
Yeah, if I don't count any of the open clients, I think I came up with a 3.6 or 3.7% close rate, which obviously I remember the old days when we were cold calling. About 3 to 5% would be the response rate. And if you wrote at least one person, you would probably paid for the thing. And so my goal was to write a client a month because I wanted to get at least one client because I figured I needed that to pay for the budget. Well, actually, I've paid for the budget and pulled in a 100% return on that in the first year, which I didn't even expect year one to be in the black. Actually, I was kind of saying, okay, if I can just break even on year one, um, the then because I knew that the residuals would be profit, but we actually did turn a profit in year one, so which
Well,
I was very happy with.
congratulations. That's great, and that just music to my ears. Makes me so happy. That, I know that when you're talking to your wife and you're making the decision to make the initial investment, it makes me really happy. We're able to help you grow your business in a way that's profitable for you in the first year. So
And I'm sure I'm going to pick up some additional stuff too. Some of these people are um, like um, one client that I got last year. Um, and this number has not been factored into the ROI, but we're probably going to be doing an in-service distribution later this year, and that'll be another 200,000 to put under management. So,
you doubled your money in year one, and then you've got an income stream, that's going to come in forward years. I mean, you're probably going to end up doing 10 to 20x your initial investment on that year one marketing. So that's great. I always love hearing success stories like that. It sounds like you use the outreach automation, you do texting, you've worked really closely with your account manager, and you serve that kind of pre-retirement group as well. What do you think are some of the ingredients that have gone into your success, and what advice do you have for advisors that might be new to Smart Asset and how they can be successful with the platform?
well, when I think about the years of doing this and even teaching new people to the basics or whatever, one of the challenging things I think is remembering that this is a contact sport, and after a while, you want to try to find that yes without getting the no's. You know what I mean? Um, it's been my experience, and so and I mentioned my faith earlier, and I tried to use this. It didn't always work successfully when I was doing it in training new advisors, but I tried to get them to understand that you've got to be doing the contacts. You never know who that yes is going to be. As long as they're not all no, I'm actually happy to get the no's because I strike them off my list. And the nice thing about it is when it's yes, um, you know, I enjoy the next step because the next step's pretty easy after that. The next step is, hey, we're going to have a acquainted meeting, and as a part of that meeting, if you're acceptable to working this way, then we're going to get organized, and then I'm into my process. The second meeting is going to be a direction meeting after we get organized, and then the third meeting is going to be plan design, and then we're into implementation and in picking a communications plan, because I think one of the key things now is communications. Are we going to talk 2 times a year? Are we going to talk 3 times? Are we going to talk four? We're going to talk six, and how do those times work? We're going to do that so that we can have that open flow of communication, because I think that's the most important part. Really, is them knowing that I'm going to be here to shift gears to, if we need to handhold about the market, we can, but more importantly, making sure that their strategy is working no matter what the market is doing.
Absolutely. Lee, thank you so much for your time here. This has been really special. I think really enlightening for our advisors.